Thanks for being here today. And Ms. Cox, if you would call the roll, please.
Yes, certainly. Mr. Allen?
Here.
Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Lear?
Here.
Mr. McCoy? Ms. Quang?
Here.
Ms. Skinner?
Here.
Mr. Teedy?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some minutes to approve. I'm looking for a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 19th.
So moved, Holly.
You, second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'm looking for a motion, please, to approve the special meeting of April 12th.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second. It's Connie.
Discussion? Question?
Yes, I have an issue with these. Reason being, if you guys recall, I was the bombastic guy, I guess, I don't know, on the whole furniture topic. And yet I'm shown here as seconding to approve.
That's a second to adjourn, I think.
But there's no way I would have done that because I was a no vote.
You didn't-
Brad, seconding the motion does not vote on the motion. Seconding the motion allows us to discuss the motion. So you could be vehemently opposed to a motion and make a motion to approve it because it's approved, second, and then discussion. So you may very well have, and Angela?
Are you looking at the one for April 12th?
That's the one that's under
Yes.
discussion, Angela. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so the motion was moved and seconded, Sina and Connie. And then the motion to adjourn
Sure, yeah.
was Sina and you
To adjourn the
to
meeting. yeah.
adjourn.
That's not the way this reads, though. Says to approve the bids for furniture and millwork for the new Liberty Branch Library. Motion moved, seconded, and carried. Baker and Allen. Oh. You're saying that the underneath to adjourn at 3:39.
Yes.
All right, I stand corrected.
All in
This
favor?
will lead into when we get to new business, I'm going to bring up minutes as a new business item because I think we need to improve on them, but I'll delay that for now.
Well, we'll all act surprised when we get there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'm looking for a motion, please, to approve the special meeting, the minutes of the special meeting of March 30th.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
My report, the only thing that I have to report is that the applications for the director position have been closed, and we had, I believe, 21 resumes, and we had some not good ones, but I do believe we have a handful of good interviews, and I'm going to let the committee process continue. I just want you to know that we have some really good candidates among them, so I'm pretty confident that our next director is in hand now. I just don't know who that is, but that's all I have. Angela?
Okay, you have my key financial points. I wanted to point out just a couple things. Number one, the PLF is continuing to come in and exceed expectations. And every time I get a message from OLC and the Ohio Department of Taxation, they just keep reiterating it keeps coming in higher, and no one's expected this. And I don't know how long it will last, but we will take it as it comes. So there's that going on. And we have the tax collections from all the counties and the rollbacks from the state of Ohio for those counties. And we got money from the Friends. I don't know how long it will last, but I'm in
Sorry,
a delay.
my problem. My problem.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I recognize my voice when I hear it.
Yeah.
So we got a special donation into the special revenue fund, and that is, there's 2 supplementals there. One is for reimbursements for the chamber dinner. So they wrote us a check to reimburse the cost for the chamber dinner, some of the cost for the chamber dinner, for table decorations, and the $3,500 for George's retirement party. So we don't know what that looks like, but that is something that the Friends do for library directors. So there's that. So that allows us to spend it. And just the regular stuff. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that really I thought, oh, yes, you have the Moody's report. They do routine surveillance for any issues that they have out there. And so they called me and said, hey, it's time to do routine surveillance. So I answered a bunch of questions about Delaware County and how great Delaware County is and how strong our growth is. And we got the same rating we had before. But they have to look at it. They were considering a better rating, but because we are tied by statute to the state of Ohio, and we don't know what the state of Ohio does with their budgeting when it comes to the biennial budget, and we're subject to that. So there's that kind of uncertainty, and issuers don't like market uncertainty. So if we were not relying on the state of Ohio for the PLF, we would perhaps have gotten a better rating. So, and I think that's all I have, unless there's other questions.
I have a
Let's take our
question.
motion first, and then, so we'll do it in order. I need a motion to approve the April financial reports, invoices, and investments.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, discussion?
Yeah,
Beth?
I have a question. Why are we getting ESG scores in our Moody report? I mean, that is concerning to me.
Why are
Beth,
we-
I can't answer that question specifically as regarding Moody's, but I've been taking CPA continuing education classes, and I am amazed at how much ESG is infiltrating everything, even the large public accounting firms.
For those of you who are interested, I'm looking starting at the bottom of page 4 of the Moody report. Page 11, I think, of our packet, if that's accurate.
And it's really kind of the global economic forum, let's just be straight, that's really pressuring businesses to comply, report, and obey, essentially. And it's going to continue to get very interesting as things around the world unfold in that whole topic.
So
That's
Angela,
that's my 2 cents.
yeah. So Angela, is this something that you had to respond to because it was included in the reporting mechanism?
They want to make sure that there hasn't been a major financial, mostly what they're looking for is if we haven't extended more debt, and we have not. And so, and they also look at the population of Delaware County, who we serve, what are the major businesses. There was several questions that they asked, and then they compile a report. I don't write the report. I only answer the questions for information that they've asked. So they have a team that they engage for the audit, for the Moody's credit report.
Oh, sure. I'm not inferring that you did anything. I'm not happy with Moody's doing this. I'm just wondering if they asked our library specific questions about environmental, social, and governance issues, and whether or not you felt compelled to respond to something that would have led to an ESG score, as it were.
No.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better that you're not having to respond to that sort of thing.
Well, it makes you feel a little better, but at the same time, Moody's is kind of taking it on themselves to inflict a score on everybody. Well, I guess did they give a true score, or they just kind of chattered about it?
Looks like chatter.
Yeah, it's going to lead to a score someday based on what things I've stumbled across on that whole topic. And for those of you that don't understand what ESG is all about, I would encourage you to educate yourself somehow, somewhere, library maybe, because it's really tied into the attempts at a one world government, meaning we would lose a lot of our freedoms and our wealth and that type of thing here in the United States. Now, you can try to say, well, that's conspiracy, but the World Economic Forum is very open about their intentions. So it's not like you even have to guess what they're up to.
Okay, does that answer your question, Beth?
Yes, it does.
we-
Thank you for letting me ask.
Oh, not at all. We have a motion to approve the April financials. All in favor?
Right.
Any
I
opposed? Thank you. I'm looking for a motion, please, to approve the April supplemental appropriations.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Connie. Any conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, and then now we need a motion, please, to accept donations from the Friends of Delaware County.
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any
Third.
conversation. Oh, I gotta get in there, Scott. You snooze, you lose. Early worm. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Needham, you're up.
Ordinarily, I would introduce staff here, but you've got their names under their pictures right now anyway, so I'll pass on that. I'm not sure who is watching the YouTube version online, but anyway, I think I announced previously, or it's in my report, that we have hired a new branch manager for the new library, Sherry Bowers. She will start next Monday. And we're looking forward to onboarding her over the next couple of weeks and then starting the search for her assistant branch managers, and we'll be building that staff. We do have a hiring event coming up on June 23rd at the Liberty Township Hall. We'll be looking for specialists, branch associates, and other staff pages that will be working in the new library. So that's coming along quite nicely. I just sent out probably an hour ago the April report from Marker, the executive report. I got it earlier this morning, and when I got back from the chamber lunch today, I got it out to you. But that's just come through. So a couple of updates on the work on the buildings. We are the orange parking lot has been replaced. It was even in worse shape than we thought it was. Some of the top asphalt that was supposed to be 3 to 3.5 inches thick was more like 1.5 to 2 inches thick in some places.
So that's less.
So, yeah, apparently. So we did have to do some additional digging to get down to dirt to rebuild the bottom. So it will come in a little higher than we thought, but it is done. It looks great, and I'm hoping it lasts until at least when I retire on September 30th.
George.
I meant to get over there and look at it, but I didn't make it. Definitely had much better weather last week for doing that.
We sure lucked out on that. Yeah, we couldn't have asked for better weather. So we also have done the seal coat and crack fills at Ostrander and Powell. Those parking lots are looking really good as well. Delaware got rained out, so we are hoping to do that. It probably will have to wait till after the summer reading club at this point, though, because we kick that off in just a couple of weeks. So the other job is the putting in the heating coils under the walk at Delaware. We are going to start the foyer that actually got started today. And so that work is coming along. We also have, while we had the building closed, we painted the inside of the foyer at Delaware and the public restrooms. So that's all been done. It's looking really good there as well. So the main library will reopen next Monday on time. Things are moving along well, and that's all I really have to report. Unless
So
anybody
did you
has
say
questions.
Sherry is starting next Monday?
Yeah, May 23rd.
May 23rd is
Yes.
like, she's showing up at 9 o'clock?
Yes, yeah, she'll show up at 9 o'clock. Yep.
Okay, I think I can make it. I'd like to show up and welcome her. When she
Oh,
walks
that'd be great. Yeah, sure. Yeah, she's supposed
But
to be here
don't
at 9.
forget, so you might want to shoot me a text because I
Am
don't.
I supposed to be chiming in questions or waiting for you, Holly?
No, go right ahead.
George, one thing I wondered while that Orange Branch was shut down essentially for a week, you kind of addressed it, but not fully. What did all of the employees there end up doing?
We had some of them take vacation during that period. We had others working in other branches to kind of fill in or to shadow, to learn other tasks that they have to be done. We had some people working on doing things like pulling the holes for other libraries during that period. We did a little bit there were some training videos we had staff watching during that week. So everybody, either people took the vacation time that they had coming. We had a number of people who did that, or like I said, we do have as a goal for every staff member this year to work at least one shift in a library or a department where they don't usually work. So this gave the folks at Orange an opportunity to do that while we were closed.
I guess I was mostly just interested that it was equitable and fair for other employees and branches, that those guys were accounted for either vacation or assigned somewhere.
Yes, yeah, no, everybody was covered. This week with this closing, we're actually still working in the building. We do have some people who are working at other places to cover vacations this week, but for the most part, we're all in the building. We're getting shelves read and clean, straighten up, things like that, and taking care of some of the things we can't do when the public's in here. We're doing some decorating for summer reading club and that sort of thing as well. So we gave people the opportunity to take that vacation time if they wanted to. That was their first opportunity. But if they didn't do that, then they were assigned to other branches or other parts of the library.
The other thing that I was very impressed with, I'll bring it up during your section since I don't know where else it would fit. I was thoroughly impressed with the baby chick hatching at Delaware branch.
Yeah.
That is a pure example of teaching and education that I have a hard time thinking could offend anybody.
It doesn't offend people, but I'll tell you one thing. The people here get pretty attached to those eggs. And when one of them didn't make it, it was like we had to put a black wreath on the front door of the library.
I didn't think about that.
We got a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of city people who, never really listen to the words to The Circle of Life, and don't really know that sometimes they don't make it. So how
were you able to time it so that it wasn't 3 a.m. or?
Some of it was during the night actually, but the folks who run bring the farm to you really have this time to a fairly well. I mean, they know exactly which day they're going to hatch, and they were right on schedule. So they can hatch a little early or a little late in the day, but for the most part, even it takes a while for them to hatch. They don't just pop in it's not like the Bonami commercial where the egg pops out and the fully hatched or fully formed chick pops out. So even if they it takes a little while, they do look like dinosaurs when they first come out of the egg, though. I mean, they are ugly.
I grew up with it, but it's been so long. I guess it is a very specific amount of days that.
Yeah. So we'll have this again at one of the other branches later this summer. I believe it's Powell in July. We'll be having the same new eggs, of course.
I have a question about the paving.
Mm-hmm.
Did the pavers explain to you or have any idea why we had so much less asphalt than we should have had?
Oh, Beth, this goes back 2-3 years. So there's backstory here.
Yeah, we actually, about 3 years ago, we wanted to have the crack fill and top coat done. And when they came out to bid the job, they said, we can't do it because your edges especially are deteriorating so fast that it would be like, just throwing good money after bad. And they also showed us, and when they started seeing that crumbling, they could see how much asphalt and how much underlay was actually there. So we started a process of, we hired a couple of engineering firms. They came out, they did ground core sampling, and apparently the paving was never done according to this, what was in the contracts. So we went back and we worked with our friends at Bricker and Eckler, and they have their own engineering firm. They looked at all the reports that we had gotten, and there wasn't the smoking gun that we could actually just nail somebody to sue them about. Also, the company that actually did the paving had gone out of business years ago. So what our attorneys at Bricker and Eckler said was, you could pursue this, but because it's already been 8 years that the parking lot's been in operation, and so there is a sort of amortization, if you will, you're not going to get enough out of this, even if you can prove your case, to make it worthwhile doing a lawsuit over. So basically we had to eat it. So, but we did work with engineers. We did work with the law firm to see if there was some way we could recoup some of this, and it just didn't happen.
Is it fair to say it's just one more gift of the original construction, similar to the roof topic?
Brad, it is exactly safe to say that. I believe what happened was that the construction for that building was built when construction was hitting a nadir during the 2008-2009 recession, and when they actually got the contracts, they had a lot more construction work, and so they were hiring people left and right who may not have been as qualified as they should have been to do the work. And so I think that's why I'm saying this, but I have absolutely no court type evidence to prove it. But the appearance and the kind of the experience that we've had with it would indicate that. So,
And remember,
if it looks like a chick and walks like a chick.
Oh, you're on a chicken
exactly
theme.
So we have put in a lot of different protections on this building that we're doing now. Of course, generals always fight the last war. That's what we're doing here. But we're trying to make sure that, for example, last week we had the contractor that now takes care of our roofs actually go out to the construction site with the roofing contractor that Marker has subbed to, and the folks from Marker, and went over what they've been doing on this roof and what does it meet the standards that are in the contract, that are in the blueprints. And we came back with a really solid report, a couple of really, really minor details, nothing serious, that they'll be putting in a report to us. But they really did. Again, we're trying to make sure that we don't repeat any of the things that happened with the Orange Branch.
And remember, when the Orange Branch was built, it was before public buildings were allowed to be constructed under a CAM format. So the board of directors were really acting as construction managers. Being able to have a construction manager at risk oversee the project for us is a whole different animal. And I will tell you, every single Friday, I'm grateful that we chose SHP and Marker every single Friday. We in the dictionary under great decisions people made, that's going to go down. They've just been wonderful. So
well, I think that's really encouraging because, I mean, obviously I wasn't participating at the time that this all happened, and to hear that you did have an attorney look at it, to hear that it would have cost us probably more to try to go back and recoup any monies that we could have gotten. I think mistakes happen all the time in private, in public, and the fact that we were trying to do our due diligence for the sake of the taxpayers and just to plain be responsible is super encouraging. And I think the taxpayers should be very pleased that we're trying to make sure that we're using their resources very wisely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that really has been our goal right from the get-go. Also, I got to tell you, over the last 5 years, Julie Miller has had to put up with a lot of this stuff. and she has been our attack dog on this project. We were talking to the architect and the folks from Marker, and they were like, "Yeah, when Julie talks, we listen." So it's really helped. So,
Julie has so owned her position, and
mhm.
I can't say enough. If there's an MVP, if there's a most improved, if there's a most, and I can't tell her often enough, she's doing an incredible job. Having said that, Friends of the Library, Karen, is there anything that's not in your report?
No, but you probably ought to change the title from report DCHS to report DCDL. Other than that, it's okay.
You got the Historical Society confused with the library, Friends of the
I
Library,
did.
huh?
What can I say?
Thank you, Karen. Okay, committee reports, library branch. Scott, anything you want to say? It's still being built. Has anybody been, who has not been over there, by the way? Oh my goodness.
It's something to see.
If you haven't
If
been
Fridays
over
at
there,
1 o'clock are bad for you, just let me know. We will schedule something. They fit your calendar
no,
if
no,
we
no, I
if we
get
need to.
that. But
No,
here's
yeah. Okay,
here's the
sorry.
thing. I think that for most of us, it is the biggest thing we will have done in our career. And if you haven't been out there to see it yet, to understand the responsibility and the gift and the enormity of what we're doing there, I would really encourage you to go out and see it. I mean, it's such a big deal to not have been out there to see it yet. I think you do yourself a disservice not to be there. It really puts everything in context when you see this. So,
Holly, in defense of myself, I don't disagree that I should get out there and say it, but you also need to understand, I came from commercial construction. We built the Freddie Mac headquarters building, which was 350 yards long. So I've been in a pretty big commercial facility and seen construction. So,
okay. So HR committee, we have some changes they want to, who's going to take this? Amanda?
Yep, I can take this for you. All right, thank you. Good evening. The HR committee met earlier in May, on May the 5th, and we reviewed some policies. Earlier, George, myself, and Molly each reviewed it. We presented it to the HR committee, and we talked through everything. I feel the HR committee is supportive of these changes, and most of it is just so they can update to current practices, make sure that if there's been any title changes, if there's been any processing changes, if the way we handle it, if there's any legal changes, or from federal, state to local level. So we wanted to make sure that those were updated. And then there's an emergency closure policy in there, and that will also be applied to our operations manual. So we have an employee manual and an operations manual, and that policy was in both, but it wasn't always consistent. So now we'll have a consistent policy with consistent language, and it's applied appropriately. And then the drugs and alcohol, health and safety, and BWC, although they're each standalone policy, they have language that ties them together, so the application of the policies are consistent, and making sure that new branch managers, new staff know exactly what they need to do. If there's a work-related, non-work-related injury, if there's a health and safety issue, if there's a workers' compensation issue, if there's a possible drug or alcohol issue. So those are policies that we took a chunk of them and we presented to the HR committee, and now we're presenting them to the Board of Trustees for any discussion and then final approval of those policies. And then those would get rolled out to staff tomorrow, should they be approved and trained on at that point. Was there any questions I can help answer?
Let's make a motion first for those that you just spoke of. I'm looking for a motion to approve the changes to drug and alcohol, emergency closing, health and safety, progressive discipline, the progressive discipline form, and the workers' comp policies.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, questions?
Thank you.
Comments, discussion? Good job, Scott. So proud of you.
The second
I'll
item,
ask some things just generally across the board on all of them. Was there any particular thing that precipitated the updates, i.e. we had a problem of some sort? What's basically the essence of any of the changes that's material, making it clearer or more detailed or less detailed or whatever? And do we foresee anything that's going to boomerang out of us changing them?
Brad, if you'll remember, this is all part of, when Amanda came on board, this is just step number 432 of updating all the policies. So nothing's really precipitated any of this, except all of this needs to be done. So this is just the next bite of the elephant.
Okay.
And each year, Brad, we updated, say, 6 or 8 policies last year, and every year you should be constantly evaluating them. They're a working document, things change and you need to apply them and roll that out to staff. So nothing, as Holly stated, nothing caused us to change it, but we're at a time where we wanted to evaluate and update these policies, and we felt some of them were same and or similar. And then the emergency closure, since we've had a few snow days this year, we wanted to make sure that those were consistent, especially we'll get that up and going. We're going to have a lot of new staff coming in, so we want to make sure that staff are trained on it. We don't anticipate any fallout or red flags. In the packet are each of the policies with notes on every change, so you can see the additions or changes, so you can see what those are right in that PDF.
And I read through them, and I could generally tell that it was just clarification. One that I had to literally chuckle at was adding the words after making termination of employment. So no Arnold Schwarzeneggering, I guess, as far as death.
And I think another reason we want to make sure these policies are very clear is if I'm not here, if George, Molly, if one of us aren't here that has drafted these policies, updated the policies, what is the intent? How are these policies supposed to be administered? Or how do they work together? What is the application of that policy? So we want to make sure it's very clear and we're applying them consistently. So again, with so many new staff members, you're better off to be detailed in some things, where some policies can be a little bit broad, others need to be specific. That way, in case something comes back or you need to train on it, coach and counsel, you have that, you can fall back to that specific language or subsection of the policy.
Okay.
Thank you, Amanda. You're doing a great job with that. Okay.
Thank
Next,
you.
we want to approve, and I'm so glad to get to this.
I don't think, Angela, was a vote actually
I'm
taken
sorry,
on that one?
All in favor?
Need to
I'm sorry.
vote.
Yeah,
All in
okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, George.
All right.
Now I'm looking for a motion to approve the position profile of the fiscal officer.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
A second.
Thank you. Okay, conversation?
Holly, I will jump in here and let the board know. This is a new position profile. This isn't an update to anything. This is one that is in the same format that the board approved last year when we revised them. This is a lot of the OLC language. We've looked at other library languages, make sure it's in the current framework. Myself, George, Molly has worked on it. Angela has provided feedback. I went ahead and presented it to the HR committee. They were good with everything. So this will be helpful, again, when evaluations are done of the fiscal officer, that you know what those standards and expectations are. And then should we ever need to hire a new fiscal officer or go out for a search, we're going to know what that looks like that we're hiring in for.
And
Now,
I think
did you-
that the position, because the position has changed as we have grown, and the profile that you folks put together reflects that. So, Brad,
Right.
you were
Did you-
saying,
I
sorry.
was under the
Now,
impression.
there's some things that are in here that our current fiscal officer may not necessarily have, like a master's degree. I'm not sure if you've got that, but she's grandfathered in.
Mhm.
As
Yes, that's
as
correct.
she did for years and years and years. So we're not
Mhm.
expecting her to, at this point, to get any certifications of any kind. She does work very closely with the Ohio Library Council and other fiscal officers to stay up to date on current trends and best practices as a fiscal officer of library. So that's.
And Angela, the board will support you in any professional development that you feel necessary to make you feel comfortable with anything that's in the job description that's different from what you're doing now.
Thank you.
And did I hear Amanda say that there was not a job description prior? I thought I saw one in the past.
We have a fiscal specialist and we have a deputy fiscal officer, but we didn't have one that was adopted or approved by the Board of Trustees.
Okay. I had three general questions, and Amanda, you already answered the first one. They were really for Angela, and they're just due diligence sort of things. I was going to ask Angela if she was able to be involved and did she take the opportunity? You already answered that. And the only other two questions I would ask Angela then is, since you're the one that knows the job day in and day out, the details and what it takes to do it, was there anything in the job description that you felt lacked that should be in there? And conversely, did you see anything in the job description that you're like, this is above the pale or outside of scope or whatever? Because now would be the time to state that.
Brad, when I read through it, and I've read through it a couple of times, and I added a little bit of language for audit purposes, because the annual financial report and audit is only done by me. And so I added that information in there. Of course, there are, like any job description, when you get to the very bottom, it is what, others' duties as assigned. So it's like, I'm not saying that has every single thing that I have ever done in this position since I've been here, but I think it fully grasps the majority of the work that is done in the fiscal office.
So you could summarize and say that it's, I lost the word I wanted.
Comprehensive?
It's reasonably comprehensive and fair.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
good.
Yes.
That's all.
One more thing I would like to add, you had brought up if an employee may not have a specific certification or a degree when we implement a new position profile or we update it. We had the same situation when we updated profiles last fall for librarians, or not librarians, for outreach and branch managers. There was a MLIS requirement, and we currently have a few staff in positions that do not have that degree. So those staff members were grandmothered in. Now, if that person, that employee were to leave and we were to replace that position, we would go out for the meeting the minimum requirements of the job. But at that point, there were a few that were grandfathered in, and it would be the same for Angela under that requirement. Is there any other questions I could help answer?
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I have no unfinished business. Brad, you had some new business, and we're going to pretend to act surprised.
This has been on my mind really even since early on coming onto the board, but minutes to me seem non-existent. They're almost like take the agenda, add the names of who first seconded and everybody that did or didn't approve, and that's it. It doesn't really tell anybody who was not at the meeting anything about what was discussed, things that were confrontational or divisive, or and I think we need to do a better job. I would point out that nobody who I wouldn't wish having to put detailed minutes together on Connie for my life. Nobody would want that job. So I'm going to suggest that maybe we consider doing video like this all the time, and that basically becomes the minutes, as Delaware County commissioners do it that way. Orange Township does it that way. The days of having to have a secretary write down everything that happened, it doesn't get any better than video and absolutely what took place.
So Brad, all of our meetings are taped, and those tapes are part of the retention schedule. Angela has them. So all of that is available and accessible. All meetings, they always have been. the minutes that are produced are appropriate for our organization. They don't need to have more than that. And there is a backup. They're recorded and it's part of the retention schedule. So we're already doing that.
Right, the Ohio Revised Code says that actions taken by the board, subjects discussed, but it's not supposed to be a transcript in writing.
Right. That's just not the way that the minutes in this governmental body.
And the Sunshine Law says the same thing.
So the record is there, but again, as Sina said, Ohio Revised Code dictates a lot of what we do, and it dictates that. So the good news is, Brad, we're already doing it. So,
Okay.
So Holly, I have some new business, if that's okay.
Sure.
I actually just wanted to ask a question and hope to start a discussion as I've been looking into what are the responsibilities of a library board member and what is the purpose of a library. I have come to find that something that I thought is true, that our library organizations all want libraries to be ideologically neutral. And I'm wondering, first of all, a question, I think I know the answer to this, but is that the goal of our library in Delaware County, to be ideologically neutral? And then after some people respond to that, I'd like to respond myself as well.
I will say that our goal is to have as broad a spectrum of information, programming, special events, and materials as possible. We do collect and select materials from across the political, ideological, religious spectrum. We also take input from the public on what things they want us to add, and use that input quite constructively and use it whenever possible. We add things to the collection that are donated. Sometimes we get subscriptions to some journals that are not things maybe that we would have ordinarily ordered, but we do have them in the collection, have them available. So our goal is to try to have as broad, as comprehensive a collection as possible for a suburban public library. We're not going to be Ohio Wesleyan or Ohio State or Columbus Metro in terms of the numbers of things, but that's why we belong to the consortia, so that we can also obtain materials from libraries like that. So yes, that is our goal.
Does anyone else want to weigh in before I share my thoughts as well?
I guess one word that jumped out to me that you just said, George, is programs. And when I hear that, my brain goes towards library sponsorship, if you will, of whatever the topic or the program might be. And without bringing up the past, as we know, the typical blow up, I guess, my thought process regarding a library is that they've got to be very careful anytime something could be construed as promoting a particular point of view or opinion. Because if you think about it, that very aspect of trying to persuade somebody to a particular way of thinking or pursuit or whatever you want to call it could infringe on somebody else's intellectual freedom. And as I understand it, the library revolves around, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but is tenanted on intellectual freedom. And if you think of freedom in general, it's the freedom to, and I know I'm an English teacher would kill me right now. You can't define with the word, but you're free to pursue any type of knowledge that you want. But we also know, at least when you talk in government arenas or populace or people, with every freedom comes responsibility. And if I'm reading what Beth is, where she's headed, my gut says, and I can't speak for her, there can be some danger in the library deciding what to promote and what not to promote. I used the words a while back and I got jumped on like crazy, but in my view, the library kind of has to remain plain vanilla. That doesn't necessarily mean boring, as I brought up the chick teaching moment earlier. That was not boring at all. But anytime the library is going to venture into any controversial type topic, I've got to wonder, does it begin, and I'll use some words here that oftentimes are correlated with religion, but if you look up the definition, they go beyond that. Proselytizing, indoctrinating. We hear lately in Florida, grooming, the whole Walt Disney World fight with the governor and what should 5 to 8-year-olds be taught or not in school. And I would like to see somehow that the library can always maintain some sort of appropriate balance of that intellectual freedom concept versus programs. Does that make any sense what I'm trying to say?
It does. Yes, Brad.
Absolutely. And Brad, I think, what the issue that you alluded to, we have discussed it, we've expressed, I think the library staff they certainly know where I stand on balance. And unless something has just come up recently that troubles you, I would say that staff knows, and I don't want the library to get into the position of saying, we know what the choice should be. So as long as the library can point to constituency that has asked for something, then I think we're supporting that constituency. Now, I do believe we have to be careful about how we word things. And I think we learned a really, really hard lesson. And I don't think we need to keep beating up our staff on that lesson, because I've beat them up enough. They know that words matter.
And that's why I didn't even want to bring up that specific situation and try to talk in more general terms, because history does repeat itself in life. And sooner or later, we could find ourselves experiencing something again, not the same, but similar concept of, and Holly, when you say that, the general, a certain percent of the population is asking for something, that's a slippery slope, because frankly, just because 100 people call the library and say they want a particular program, well, gee, that sounds like a fair amount of people interested. But there's what, 20, how many thousands in the county?
Wait a minute. So are you saying that those 100 people who support our library through their taxes are not relevant because the number's not big enough to satisfy somebody else's position?
I'm not saying
What's
they're
the
not.
number, Brad?
No, that's not exactly what I'm.
No, that's exactly what you said.
Well, that's not what I'm meaning to say.
Right?
If 100
people come to the library and say, please put on this program, and provided it's legal and it's not physically harmful or illegal, do those 100 people get the program?
Can I jump in here? Because there's a couple of things I think that you need to hear here. One is, one of the things we learned was that, yes, we can't look like we're in a position where we are sponsoring or endorsing an idea. That was a huge, we went down the wrong path, and we've corrected. We've made that course correction. The second thing is, if 100 people come to us and say they want a program, we still have the professional discretion to say, okay, what kind of program is that going to be? Is it going to be, do we bring in a speaker? Do we bring in an author? Do we bring in a panel of people covering a different set of views on that issue so that we can have a real dialogue about that issue, rather than look like we're trying to say this is the way to think? the one thing that libraries never want to do is tell people this is the way to think. What we want to do is provide a variety of resources so that they can think for themselves. That is our goal. That's our only goal. Our only goal is for people, as Brad said earlier, for them to learn the things that they think are important to them, that they want to learn, that they want to develop. And so when I talk about programs, I'm talking about things like having musicians, or we're having the medieval fair coming up next week from Saturday, where the you know, it's about the crafts. It's all of those sorts of things. That's the kind of program I'm thinking. I don't think you're going to see, you know, we're not going to get into political issues where it looks like we are endorsing one side or another. If an organization outside the library wants to use our meeting room to do that program for 100 people, that is they have that ability. Our meeting rooms are available to not-for-profit organizations to use. So if 100 people come to us and say, we want a program on the history of Johnson floor wax, we don't have to sponsor. We can say, here's the room, bring in your speaker, have fun. It's your program. We're not sponsoring it. We're not endorsing it. We're not doing anything about it. So I think that's some of the lessons we learned. That's also how we try to make sure that this remains a kind of the community square where all the ideas are available, and we're not selling one idea over another.
George, that's what I was thinking about. And honestly, I wasn't referencing what happened a couple of years ago. I wasn't thinking about programs. I was more thinking about like what we put on display and things like that. So when I had the opportunity to come in and meet with you and meet library personnel was February, it was Black History Month. And the only thing that I saw when I came in the front was a display of so-called anti-racism and 1619 Project and things. And my thoughts on that were just what I've heard from my own family members who are mixed race, that they don't share those views. And so I'm wondering, so if we're going to have a display for something as important as Black History Month, do we want to have a balanced presentation of things by like Frederick Douglass when he was a Democrat and Frederick Douglass when he became a Republican? And do we want to have not just the liberal thought leaders, but also conservative thought leaders like Walter E. Williams and Thomas Sowell and Dr. Ben Carson and Justice Thomas and things like that? So that's what I was referencing when I'm thinking. And I love that you guys all bring up balance, because that's exactly what I was looking at. And that's the discussion that I wanted to bring up, was how can we make sure that we're presenting balanced views to try to encourage some of the folks that have told me they're not coming to the library anymore. We want everybody to come to the library. So I want them to know that we're working to be balanced and open and supportive of all different kinds of ideas and not just one side. And I feel like we have that direction going, but I just wanted you to know what my thoughts were and open the conversation.
Beth, I think if you ask the people who do our displays here, they'll tell you that I've hit on this topic a number of times. I think it's really important that if we're going to do a display, whether it's anything, but something as serious as Black History Month, yeah, I think for every Frederick Douglass or W.E.B. Du Bois, there's a Booker T. Washington. For it's Martin Luther King and it's Malcolm X. It's not one thing or the other. The whole idea is to provide an inclusive look at what that is, and that means including both conservative, liberal, and down the middle ideas. So I have no argument with that at all. And I do stress to my staff, to the team here, that if we're going to do these kinds of things, we need to make sure that we are not, that it doesn't look like we're endorsing any topic. We need to maintain some sort of balance there.
Okay, so I could buy into that. Instead of the library being plain and never dabbling into something that might be controversial to one side or the other, the key word that we were using earlier, I guess, is that the library remains neutral. And the only way that the library can remain neutral is if There's something, and Beth used the example of bulletin boards, but I could say programs, right? Whatever that the library has their fingerprint on somehow, not just somebody renting a room randomly.
Mhm.
There should always be the mindfulness that there is always a balance that takes the topics to neutral from the library's promotion standpoint.
It's not always possible to balance one for one because
it's a difficult.
So, but to make sure that we're having representation, I think is really important across the board and across the spectrum.
Tina, you
I was going to say that when we discussed diversity and inclusion, sometimes neutral is sometimes the appropriate way to go. I'm not saying that on a on the other side of the spectrum where we're way out there, far out, but there's so many sides to so many issues right now, and to remain neutral is almost to me like avoidance. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying this right. I'm not good at explaining this myself, but we serve all of our constituents, no matter where they come from. I'm always been impressed by knowing that down in the Orange Branch that has a Hindu collection of books. Is that right, George?
That's correct. Yeah.
I mean, that is wonderful, and that's resources for them for whatever reason or whatever is in those books. So to say that in that sense, we should remain neutral and not provide that because it's another language, another culture. I think neutral is a dangerous word in today's climate.
No, I don't know that that's lacking. I don't think that that's a problem that there's Hindu books necessarily, because that is helping the neutrality. If there's Christian books in the library and I'm blank on other religions right now.
We got somebody here who knows something about religion.
Do you need your resident expert to chime in?
My brain is blank right now to spew off the 3, 5, 10 different religions. I have no problem at all that the library has all of those. It would be against what I'm trying to say, and Beth's better saying, to only have all Christian books.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's another issue if you stick Hindu front and center right as soon as you come in the library, and all the others are in the back corner.
But if we're celebrating something, or I think it would be appropriate to bring attention to the fact that we are many people, many thoughts.
Every display is featuring something. So we have an art display right now, the kids in art school. You walk into the main branch. It's awesome. What if I thought art sucks? I'd walk in there and go, what is all this? I can't see around these. I have to go around them. So by displaying art, are you saying that those of us who don't like art, and that's not me, but I should be offended by that? Or should I have another sign that says some people don't like art? So I think that having that allowing as much equal time as you can, but if we had a Hindu display, that doesn't mean we're saying everybody needs to be Hindu. This is the only thing that's right. It's just this display just happens to be that. Next month, it might be something else. Some other time, it might be something else. So I think that we need to be very careful to not buy into the perception of it. The perceptions out there now are so absolute, and the problem with free speech, the problem with free speech is it's free speech. It's the good news and the bad news. So I think I think Beth's point is very well taken and appreciated by the staff. I think all of us in our work sometimes get our heads in one place. I have a board of directors and I don't need their help doing my job because I've been around a long time, but boy, oh boy, do they contribute to my life and to my work in the same way that we are today. So I don't want to continue to beat staff up, but I do want to be able to support them and continue to remind them that we're going to try and reach as much as we can. And so Beth, that's helpful to hear your side of it. And that's our role. Our role isn't to say, no this, no that. Our role is to say, don't forget that there's another side.
Can I say something?
Please.
George, I really appreciated one of the things you said, which is, exploring different topics and different subjects and having, for example, a panel with people of various views on that topic or subject. Boy, if you want to get me to the library, that's a quick way to do it. I mean, I'm a very curious person. I could probably set you up a really good panel. I mean, my good friend Tony Marconi and I both are Christians, but Tony Marconi and I couldn't think more differently about a lot of things. But when we get together and talk, it's rich and good. We disagree on a lot of things, but having the conversation is important, and having the conversation in a fair-minded and in good faith builds a relationship instead of tearing it down, even though we think very differently. And that's what I think is missing from social media, the public square right now, is both sides are just chewing on each other and nobody's talking. So I say all that to say, I'm with Beth, I'm with Holly and Brad, what they're saying. I think that the library needs to promote an environment where everybody feels welcome and where the conversation could be had in a good faith way. That's all I have to say.
I also want to be careful that library staff is not so scared and parsing every thought and second guessing themselves that we end up not gifting our constituents because we were scared to offend someone, or we were scared to, and Scott, you put it right, in good faith. I live every day in good faith, but I still screw up. And I don't mean religious faith. I mean, people expect certain things from me and sometimes I screw up. People expect certain things from the library and sometimes they screw up. So we just fix it. And as long as the culture is there and that's always the goal, then we're going to be okay.
I have to say, we have a culture here of give and take. We're having a discussion right now about a certain thing that's going all over the place, and it's respectful, it's professional, and it is about right on this target. So I think that this is something that we do think about. I hope it doesn't freeze us in place. I think we've been open enough with each other within the staff that it won't. But I appreciate the input we're getting from y'all here. And I think this kind of give and take is, I see this as being an important role for the board to keep us grounded in the community, to try to have us live our best lives, like, to try to do that in good faith and to work towards that. And I think that the staff, the ones who are listening, the ones who are going to go back and watch this video later, will understand that and see what it is you're saying. And I think they can take that into account without becoming scared to do something. So
I want them to hear also that they have the board's support and encouragement to bring up the other side of issues. I don't want anybody to think that they couldn't. So we want to support that. They have I don't want to constipate the programming out of fear. So thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Any public participation?
Yes, we are live on YouTube, as you know, as the recording said in the beginning. And earlier when George said that he would normally introduce staff, we had a handful of staff wave and say hi. So Katie Height said hi, and Denise Kilton said hi.
Hi, back.
We also have Martha Philippic is in the YouTube audience, and she said, I understand last month someone claimed that social agendas are influencing kids to become gay and trans. As a board member of Delaware, Ohio Pride, I want to assure you we have no such agenda. And then she added, as the conversation has gone on, point on balance. Please be mindful of allowing the expression of viewpoints that are extremely harmful to vulnerable populations. And then we had a comment from Holly Hansen, and she said, board members need to rely on the employees to do their jobs and not get into the daily workings of the staff. And she said, and I will say, if your kid is LGBTQ, they did not become so from the library. That is all.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Two real quick things, Holly. I was wrong about where the next chicks are. They're going to be at Ostrander, July 6th through 8th. Second thing is, I just wanted to thank everybody for your patience with me last month. First with my mom dying and forced me to miss the one meeting, and then having COVID, which forced me to miss the second one. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate the condolences that I received from the board members. Thank you.
And George, you were in Buffalo, right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, and so my heart just breaks.
I used to drive by that corner every morning on my way to the University of Buffalo, because the bus route that goes down Jefferson Avenue connects my neighborhood with the university. So I know exactly where that happened.
You have my condolences to your hometown community, sir.
Thanks. It's really hurt them. I still subscribe to the Buffalo News online, and I see what that's been like. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you to our public participation. Hi back to our staff.
Nicole's got something else, I think.
I'm sorry, Sina?
I think Nicole's got something else.
Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. Well, there was a part 2 of Martha's statement, but it's not coming through on the chat and YouTube. So I'm going to give her a second to see if it comes through. But in the meantime, while she waits for that to come through, I do want to say that this Friday we do have a very exciting program coming. Sarah Vowell is a nonfiction author of American history and through a contemporary lens. She is witty, she is funny, and she is also the voice of Violet Parr in the Incredibles series that is through Pixar. And so this Friday, we would love for you to come and see it. If you don't already have tickets, it's at Chapelier Drama Center, and it's going to be really wonderful. And I also wanted to give a plug because we won't see each other for some time until mid-June. Between now and the next time we see each other, George already mentioned that the Ostrander Branch Library is having a medieval fair on Saturday, June 4th. It's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It is a ton of work that the staff have put into this. They're very excited about it. They have an entire map. Basically, all of the plot of land at the Ostrander Branch Library is going to become a medieval fair, medieval garb. It's really wonderful. Costumes, jousting, Knights of the Rose will perform joust games. It's really phenomenal. One that we're really excited about, we begin in 10 days from now, the Summer Reading Club. As you know, children and adults participate in that. The goal is to keep children learning as summer goes on, preventing the summer slide. And that's not a fun playground tool. It is a fun playground toy. It is a thing that happens when kids don't keep up what they learned during the school year and they slide backwards, having to relearn again for the first few months of their next grade. So that begins on the 27th of May. And one of the most exciting things that we have coming this summer is the Whale Mobile. The Whale Mobile is a life-size 43-foot long inflatable humpback whale. Brad, this might be up your alley. You were into the chicks, so I feel like you're to be into the
chicks, whales, right?
You have to register. You'll find it on our calendar on June 16th. But it's really amazing. Kids will actually walk inside the inflatable whale. Thanks to our friends at Delaware City Schools Willis Education Center for hosting it there, because we don't have space for a 43-foot life-size whale. And then I'm sure Karen will appreciate that on Saturday, June 18th at the Orange Branch Library, there will be a Friends bargain book sale. So, and then Martha's second comment that she added was, thank you for keeping the library a safe place for all.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All